Hello. The brink of disaster. At the end of our last episode of Doctor Who, Gaia, if you would be William Hartnell, we had this. No, I'm not in the picture. Anyway, all that's resolved. It was Ian. We could never have guessed that. There were only 4 people in the story. One of them was being strangled, and they were being strangled by a man. Didn't see that coming. No! Anyway, let's start with the good thing. The end of this story sees our 4 intrepid travellers, after 13 episodes, finally become a proper crew. And that's a marvellous thing. And we finally, for the first time, get a bit of Hartnell Doctor Who, which is as we all wish it always was, with a nice doddery old doctor being grandfatherly and nice and lovely to Barbara. Then we get a nice little cliffhanger, and it's great. And, you know, and we live for moments like that in Doctor Who, don't we? We do. Gaia enjoyed it. Get it off, man. This is my moment in the sun. Now, before all that, we get a continuation of the total bobbins that came before. I would say that about 80% of this story, it was terrible. And about 20% of it was good. And here's the deal. Essentially, we get ages and ages, a good 10 minutes it felt like, where the explanation happens to us. And it happens to us by people saying things that are then followed by people saying other things, which are such a leap of sense that you just have to kind of accept that it's going on at you. And all the interesting explanations for why the strangeness is happening. Ian goes bonkers again at the start. More bangs and crashes and whistles. You know, all this. There's other people in the TARDIS. Your saboteurs. You know, all this just gets thrown out the window very, very fast, to be replaced by a much more interesting explanation, which is the TARDIS, the ship, is trying to tell us that there's a problem. Now, that's all well and good, and in fact, we'll deal with that in a moment, okay? But this dialogue goes on whereby we have, first of all, oh man, just wading through it in my head is just terrible. After the obligatory argument, it's you, it's not you, I'm going to chuck you off the ship, Susan swinging between, oh yes, it's your fault. No, we can't throw him off the ship, grandfather. But perhaps it's not their fault. But Callan Ford completely unimpressing again. And she has some of the most painful, I'm scared look. She sort of looks off in the distance and goes, I don't, what she does with the shoulders is unbelievable. I can't even pretend. I can see myself, but I can't do it. We get a period where people are going, the fault locator's saying that the clocks got took away, that's time being taken away, but now the fault locator, and it's everything. Can you imagine what it's if the fault locator, and then it's every 15 seconds, so that means we've got 10 minutes. Actually, we've only got 5 minutes. I was lying to them, so those two don't realise it's going to happen. I mean, for crying out loud, if your whole ship that travels in space and time is going to be disintegrated, you're not going to know about it whether you've got 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You know, when the moment happens, it's just going to happen, isn't it? So then we get this explanation that the ship's trying to warn us of something. And again, I'm going to deal with that in a minute. But Hartnell gets a speech where he basically tells us how galaxies are formed. Now, whether or not we know how solar systems are formed, the way it's being talked about, and the way I remember it was that it's the whole birth of the universe. But no, they keep going, it's solar system, solar system, solar system. So these atoms run in and they form dust and then matter. And he gets this speech. Now, this speech, as far as I recall, is quite well regarded in Doctor Who terms. But honestly, come on, he's just telling you how a solar system is formed, and he's like bonkers with it. So then we get the point that actually what's going on is the TARDIS is flipping backwards and backwards, or essentially it's ended up in a place it shouldn't be. And why has it happened? Because a spring broke. Okay, we get this bobbins about the power. Nice stuff. The power is trying to escape, and yet it's a switch that does it. A broken spring, and oh man alive! Of course, the Doctor has a bit of flannel. I can't see the switch. I can't see the switch. It's got fault locate. No, it's got fast return written in felt pen on the console. I'm not pulling this together very well, am I? But I'm incredibly frustrated. Why am I frustrated? Well, I don't think the actors are at their best here. I don't think they're given the best script. I think, in all honesty, they must have looked at it and gone, what the hell does this mean? So, Caroline Ford, Ian spends an awful lot of this on the floor going, don't touch it. I'll try and strangle you. Don't touch the control, Doctor. I'll try and strangle you. Don't touch the control. The only one who comes out of this with any saving grace, as you may expect, is Jacqueline Hill, who is just class. She is a class actress. Quite why she's not. I ain't going to have to look at what else she's done, because honestly, some of the time she just saves this. And it's really interesting to note that when Hartnell's at his best is when he's playing off Jacqueline Hill. She brings out the best in virtually everybody else in this cast apart from Caroline Ford. Bless. I don't want to be mean to Caroline Ford, but oh God, some of the crap she gets to say. The worst moment in this, and to be fair, this wasn't to be known at the time. The worst moment is when the Doctor explains to Caroline Ford quite why the fault locator was having such difficulty telling them there was a problem with the spring. And he does it with a pocket torch. Now, is Susan a time lady? We kind of all now say, yeah, she's a time lady. Surely she just gets the spring broke. No, she becomes the identification for character for the audience to get this incredibly patronising explanation of what's going on. And considering there's been so much ridiculous jumping from explanation throughout the previous part of the episode, 10 minutes, it's actually 5 minutes. But the ship was trying to, and the clock melted. They took away time, then gave us time back because fault locator, it's every 50 seconds, that means 10 minutes. Considering that the audience has had to really, really suspend every ounce of disbelief to then have this most patronising explanations as to why. Anyway, the most interesting idea in the whole of this is that the TARDIS is sentient. Okay? And this is something that we, especially now, just love about Doctor Who. The Doctor travels around, he's a madman in a blue box, and the blue box is basically his constant companion, and it is a companion. And you fast forward to the Doctor's wife, and we really get a sense in that if we ever needed it, that the TARDIS and the Doctor are linked and are best buds, and even though they can't talk, and the idea that the TARDIS in this is trying to communicate to the crew that there is something desperately wrong is brilliant and is wonderful, but it just gets lost. Now, I can't blame the show at this point in its history for losing that, because it's just too good an idea at this point in the show's history to really give it its all. It's just, and thank goodness David Whittaker throws it in there so early on, because we reap the rewards of this. But in all honesty, we've had a two-part story which should have just been cut down and simplified and made so good. The best thing about this story, apart from the nice resolution at the end with the Doctor making friends with Barbara again, and he gets a lovely line. The more we know each other, the better we know ourselves, or something like that. That's great. That sums up the whole of what's been going on, basically, with the TARDIS crew to this point, and really helps us to understand the Doctor in light of Ian and Barbara, and how he's going to become the Doctor through his experience of having Ian and Barbara on the ship. That's genuinely what I believe. Obviously, that's retconning it to a certain extent, but Doctor Who works so well if these early stories are seen as the Doctor becoming the Doctor through his experience with Ian and Barbara. Brilliant, love it. The best thing, apart from that central idea of the TARDIS and that resolution, is just the conflict between the characters. If you strip away everything that happens, everything that's said, and you just view the story of the relationships, these characters getting dragged apart, then because of a crisis, pulled together again, and then a new friendship, a proper team forming because of it. That's great. That really, really is great, and it's a great story, because then it hopefully will act as a launch pad for us actually enjoying the relationship scenes, characters. At the end of this story is the first point in 13 episodes that we've actually felt that we've got a TARDIS crew that's a crew, and they're going to stick together, and we don't have to have the bobbins, these 2 episodes of the Doctor going, you've come to my ship and you've done it very cleverly. They haven't got a clue, Doctor. They don't know what's going on. Why are you accusing them? You're supposed to be a clever man. Frustration. I'm tempted to do this whole 10-minute ramble again, because ultimately what I've just done is through the medium of gibberish expressed what it felt like to watch this episode. There we go. Anyway, so what have we got? Jacqueline Hill's ace, William Russell's passable but given nothing to do in this episode. William Hartnell, less said the better at this point. You know, his end part, the last few moments are great, and that's William Hartnell as a Doctor. That's what we remember him by. And Caroline Ford, let's hope she gets something to do, because I don't want to get to Dalek Invasion of Earth and just have had to talk about her in these terms all the way through. And that's that. Next up, The Roof of the World. I'm very excited about that. And when I said to Libby, after letting slip that it's Marco Polo, she said, now remind me, is Marco Polo the man who invented the chickens? Whether she knows or not, this is exactly the reason I love my wife. Is Marco Polo the guy who invented the chickens? I don't know what that means, but it was probably more fun than 80% of The Brink of Disaster. Anyway, next time. See you later. Bye-bye.